Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the 12th lecture of data mining. So today we will continue our discussion on item set mining. Uh, we will be talking about interestingness measures for frequent item set mining and discuss some of the related issues with interestingness measures in general in data mining. Uh, and then after that, we'll talk about some, you can say, variations in the applications of item set mining or frequent pattern mining. And I think that's pretty much it for today. So in the last lecture, we had talked about frequent pattern mining. We had talked about sequential pattern mining. And we discussed one algorithm in sequential pattern mining, which we call GSP, generalized sequential pattern. GSP is very similar to the a priori algorithm for frequent item set mining. So it follows the same procedure and use more or less the same set of rules for generating sequential patterns. So I have uploaded a solved example for GSP on LMS, and I have also placed a chapter from another textbook, which is Web Data Mining textbook. The chapter 2 is on item set mining and association rule mining. If you want to just focus on sequential pattern mining, then that is 2.6 and 2.7. So section 2.6 and 2.7 from that book is part of your course. Okay. Of course, for sequential pattern mining, there are many other algorithms as well. So we won't be discussing those. We have just discussed the GSP algorithm, which is a extension of the a priori algorithm. So there are also variations of the FP growth algorithm applied to sequential patterns. So we have the algorithm, what is known as the prefix span. So we won't discuss that in this course. For those who are interested, they can read on their own. So, okay, so that's the agenda for today. Any questions so far? So are there any questions from the previous content that we had discussed so far?
No, sir.
All right. So I think I will get started then if there are no questions. So I wanted to start with talking about interesting measures. So you can also think of interestingness measures as evaluation measures. So these are quantities that you can compute on patterns. And based on the value of this quantity, we want to determine whether a pattern that is discovered is of interest to us or not. Okay? And the idea behind interestingness measure in data mining is that we would like to automate the process of finding patterns as much as possible. Even though if you remember from the KDD process that we discussed in the first lecture, data mining is in general a interactive and iterative process, but we would like to make it more automatic, and interestingness measures help us make them automatic. So what are the two main purposes of interestingness measure? So one, basically, you want to automatically filter patterns of potential use or interest, you can say. Okay? So we would like to have a way of automatically filtering out patterns that are interesting and leave out those that are not. And secondly, Secondly, we would like to use these measures to optimize the discovery process. So what do I mean by optimize the discovery process? So let's say if you have defined a interestingness measure, we would like to use this measure, and what the term that is used is push it into the algorithm and just find those interesting patterns and not the rest. So the good example for this from what we have covered so far is the support measure that we use in finding frequent item sets. So if you look at the a priori algorithm, in the first scan, any single item set that is not frequent, which is based on the support measure, is removed. So we are in a way optimizing the discovery process, the search process. If we did not have this measure, we would not be able to optimize this process, and we'll be doing a brute force analysis, generating all the patterns and then checking them. So these are the two main reasons why we include interestingness measures. And what is a good interestingness measure? So what is a good interestingness measure? A good interesting measure is one which can do both of these purposes effectively. Okay? Meaning that it can be used to optimize the algorithm to a great extent. Secondly, it can be used to filter interesting patterns and interesting patterns only and nothing else. So in other words, okay, so let's say we have a set of patterns. Let's say I can say X is the set of all patterns. Okay, all possible patterns. And let's say Y is the set of patterns of use or interest to the user. Okay, and of course, from this in general, Y would be a subset or maybe even equal to X. Okay, na? But when we run an algorithm, our algorithm would output Z. Okay, na? Set of patterns output by algo. Okay, na? So what would we like to have in general? So Z should be exactly equal to Y, right? And how would we be able to do that? Through the interestingness measure, or we would like it to be done through the interestingness measure. But in practice, of course, this is not always true. So usually Z might be completely contained in Y, for example, in which case it is not complete. We have not found all the patterns. Or, for example, Z may contain all of Y, but may also contain other patterns from X. So in which case it is not optimal, it's giving us non-interesting patterns as well. Okay? So a good interestingness measure in this regard should be both complete and optimal, meaning that find all patterns in Y and no additional patterns. Okay? So Z should be exactly equal to Y. If it is smaller than Y, meaning that some patterns we have missed out. If it is bigger than Y, then of course we have included non-interesting patterns. Okay? So any questions on this idea, concept? Okay, now, so we have defined evaluation measures or interestingness measures. So in general, for any particular task, there might be multiple interestingness measures. And each interestingness measure may convey a different idea or a different, you can say, perspective of the pattern. So as a data scientist, as a data miner, we should be able to completely understand what it is telling us, so that we are not misled by the value of the interestingness measure. So in other words, we should be able to interpret the value of the interestingness measure correctly. That's very important as a data scientist. So to be able to interpret the measure correctly, you should be able to understand it in somewhat deeper detail. ठीक है? So इसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ना मैं थोड़ा सा एक और चीज भी इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाह रहा हूँ, ऑल्दो ये थोड़ा सा बेसिक स्टफ है, but as data scientists you should know this. The whole issue about observational analysis versus experimental design. Have you guys heard about these names before? किसी और कोर्स में, statistics में maybe? ठीक है? So observational analysis is analysis in retrospect, meaning that data is available and in general no control is available on the data generating process. ठीक है? So in other words, we have the data and we do not have control over the data generating process. And the data that we have, we also probably don't know much about its collection properties. So for example, there might be biases in the data. ठीक है? So there might be biases in the data, and biases could be of various nature. So in general, you can have selection bias. So for example, if you're talking about student data at LUMS, if I sample the student body at LUMS and prefer undergrad students over grad students, I will have more undergrad students in my data set. So that's a selection bias. Okay? And biases can arise due to various reasons. Even humans, while collecting data, can cause biases. And most often, we do not know the nature of the bias. Okay? It's not easy to determine the nature of the bias. So whenever we do analysis on such data, we need to be aware that such biases may exist in the data, and we should be careful in interpreting the results that we get. Okay? So one of the fundamental things that we would like to know about the data generating process is the issue of causality, cause-effect analysis. So causality is actually a very deep word, and there is a lot of deep concepts associated with it. We won't go into those details, but very briefly, so cause-effect analysis is basically trying to determine what happens or what is the cause of a particular event. So for example, if this is a standard example that you see maybe in statistics as well. So let's say you observe that grass is wet, your lawn grass is wet. So what caused that wetness? So it could be rain, it could be even a sprinkler that is running out there. And there could be multiple other reasons as well. ठीक है ना? So this kind of analysis is cause-effect analysis. And whenever we have observational analysis where we have data only and we do not understand or control the data process, inferring causality is non-trivial and it might be misleading. Because हमको data जब generation process ही नहीं पता, clearly, तो सिर्फ attribute values से हमको ये नहीं पता कौन सी value पहले आ रही कौन सी बाद में आ रही, we don't know in general. So then determining causality in an absolute sense from observational analysis is difficult. Of course, this is an area of research that is still continuing today. But this is something that you need to know. Observational data analysis or causal analysis, causal inference karna is difficult in the first place and oftentimes may be misleading because of various reasons. So by the way, one of the conditions for causality is that, for example, you want to ascertain a causality between an event A and event B. Okay? So, and these might be two features in your data set. Okay? So you can say, okay, they might be correlated, then it means that there's a causal relationship. Or you might even say there is some other measure like confidence between A, जो हमने confidence अभी पढ़ा है, A implies B. If its confidence is high, then it means that there is a causal relationship. Or we can say that there's a correlation between A and B, there's a causal relationship. But in general, we can't say that. We can only say that there's a correlation. We can only say there's confidence between the two. उसको extrapolate करने के लिए you need to have some other conditions to be satisfied. ठीक है? And one of the other conditions, which is a condition for causality, is A must occur before B. ठीक है? Time, temporal execution of the events is important. ठीक है? But in many data sets that you have, you are not able to determine this, or you do not have this information. ठीक है? So the measures that you use would tell you only what those measures are meant for. And you need to understand what those measures are meant for in the correct sense. So you cannot always take confidence high to mean causality. And this is especially true for observational analysis. So to do, for example, causal analysis in a much deeper way, you need to model the data generating process. So usually model the data generating process. And usually this is a graphical model. So these are some of the advanced things that you might do if you go into deeper data science or some advanced topic in machine learning, for example. So you can build a graphical model, meaning A is an event and A causes B. So you have an arrow to B and so on. And there's this graph for all the variables that you have. And then of course, there might be some variables that you do not know. So those are called, of course, confounders. Okay. So anyway, so this is just to give you a preview. So I wrote two things above there. So this was observational analysis. The other was experimental design. So experimental design is not in retrospect. It is a experiment that is designed to determine the correctness of a hypothesis. So you are now actually controlling the process. So data generating process is controlled now. Okay? So for example, let's say if you want to determine the efficacy of some vaccine, so you control the process of the data that generated. You take randomly people from the population, one random set you give the vaccine, the other random set you don't give the vaccine. Okay? And then the data that you get from there, the analysis that you do would be more closer to causal analysis than simple correlation or some other stuff, because now you're controlling the data generating process. And you know that there are fewer biases in the data as compared to observational data analysis. Okay? So of course, experimental data design is not the focus of data mining. This is more of the focus in some other areas. medicine as well as social sciences. But you should know this, that if the process is controlled and it's controlled in a randomized fashion, then the analysis that you do based on this data would be more statistically sound than that you do using experimental observed data only. ठीक है? ठीक है? Any questions? आज लगता है बहुत थोड़ी अटेंडेंस है. पहले जब मैंने शुरू किया था, I think there are hardly like less than 10 people there. All right. So this is the distinction between observed or observational analysis and experimental design. So observational analysis, the data that you have is from some process, but that process, you don't have control over it, and the data may have biases. You can do data mining on it. You can use various measures to evaluate the patterns, but then you have to be a bit careful in interpreting those evaluations. Okay? And the whole idea of causality and cause-effect analysis is that you want to determine whether one event is the cause for another event. And causality has some conditions. One of the conditions is the first event must come before the other. And there are some other conditions as well. And causality in general is difficult to determine from observed data. Okay? You can do better causal analysis using experimental design where you control the data generating process. And usually that control is randomized over all the variables so that you don't get any biases. Okay? So this is kind of a general, you can say, kind of concept that you should keep in mind while doing data mining. So now coming back to our specific problem of frequent item set mining and association rule mining, we talked about two measures so far. So one was support, okay, which was for frequent item sets, and the other was confidence. Confidence. So confidence was for a rule, and we had defined both of these previously. So let's say you have a rule like A implies B, and let's say support is, let's say 20%, and confidence is, let's say 80%. So what does this confidence tell us? So support, of course, it tells us that this pattern A and B together, because support is for both item sets, occurs 20% in my database, transactional database. Confidence means that in all the transactions in which A occurs, B occurs 80% of the times. ठीक है ना? So that is confidence. So confidence को हम किस तरह define करते हैं? Confidence is basically support of A, B, ठीक है? AB divided by support of A. ठीक है ना? So its confidence, does confidence tells us about correlation? What is correlation? Correlation says that if one, the occurrence of one event increases, the occurrence of the other event also increases. ठीक है ना? Correlated है, या either positively or negatively. One increases, other decreases. ठीक है? So that is correlation. ठीक है? So does confidence tell us about correlation? No, in general, no. Confidence just tells us about that same conditional thing. In general, if you want to write confidence in terms of probability, although I do not like this entirely because 100% correct नहीं होता. So basically this implies the probability of B given A. So this is somewhat related to confidence, conditional probability. ठीक है ना? But correlation is different from this. So for correlation, okay, why doesn't it do that? There's a slide in the section. Let me just show you that. So let's say you have two events, play basketball and eat cereal. And of course, let's say you have collected this data for students at a university. Okay? So if you talk about the rule, play basketball, eat cereal, its support is 40%, data is given in the table below, and its confidence is 66%. So confidence, so let's look at the table actually. Let's see table किधर गया. Yeah, this is the table. So basketball, oops. So 2000 people eat cereal and play basketball. So these are the transactions in which both basketball and cereal occurs. So 2000 transactions. Total transactions हमारे पास कितनी है? 5000 है. ठीक है ना? So support क्या हुई? 2000 divided by 5000, which is 40%. ठीक है? Support for the rule, eat, play basketball and eat cereal. अब total students कितने basketball खेलते हैं? It is a row sum which is 3750. Which is I think 3750 divided by 5000 would be I think around 87% or something. And if you look at total people who eat cereal, so 3000 people eat cereal. So this is 3000 over 5, that is I think 75%. ठीक है? But जो confidence हमने ऊपर निकाला था, confidence was basically support of both, which is 40%. Divided by support of the left-hand side, which is basketball, which is 87% or something. So that comes out to be 66%. So the confidence is 66%, but we know that 75% eat cereal, and actually playing basketball is reducing the number of people who eat cereal, 66%. So it's not a positive correlation, it's even a negative correlation. So confidence does not tell us about correlation. So do you understand this point? So without having basketball, overall in the student population, 75% of the students eat cereal. But if you include basketball as the context, as the condition, the number of people who play basketball and eat cereal is actually the number of people, among the number of people who play basketball, only 66% eat cereal. So in other words, there's a decrease or drop. So there's a negative correlation. So the whole idea of this experiment is that you need to be careful about interpreting the results that you see. ठीक है? So now, Okay, so what are the measures for correlation? So we had studied some of them before as well, and these are discrete attributes. Events हैं ये. तो events के लिए हमने कौन सा measure पहले study किया था? chi-square, chi-square. ठीक है ना? The chi-square stat can be used to quantify the correlation between two events. In this case, play basketball and eat cereal. And also there's another measure which we call lift. Lift can also be used to quantify deviation from independence, which means correlation. So what is lift? So, and lift of course is derived from probability theory. So let's say if you have a joint probability A, B, two events A and B. So in general, you can write this as if they are independent, then this would be equal to probability of A, probability of B. If A and B are independent. ठीक है? Is that true? दो events हैं, and of course यहाँ we are saying that co-occurring events हैं, temporal नहीं है. ठीक है ना? Of course ये फिर सारी वो कहानी causality की भी आती है, but I don't want to confuse you much. ठीक है? So of course you know this from probability theory. If A and B are independent, then their probability, joint probability, should be equal to the probability of their individual events. So you can use this to define lift. So lift essentially is, so lift of a rule, let's say A given B, is basically probability of A, B divided by both terms, probability of A, probability of B. Okay? So if this value is 1, then it means that A and B are independent. If the value is greater than 1, then you have non-independence, meaning that the joint probability A and B is greater than the independent. And if it is less than 1, again, that means that they are not independent. They are correlated. So lift आप use कर सकते हैं to find the, or get an estimate of the correlation. So by the way, जो हमने जो slides पे देखी थी, उसका lift क्या होगा? उस slides पे उसमें हमारे पास तो सीरियल 3750 और वो था 2000, 3000 था, ठीक है, और वो 5000 था, ठीक है, तो वो 2000 था, ठीक है, total 5000 था. If you want to find the lift, so let's say numerator पहले मैं लिख रहा हूँ 2000, sorry, 2000 divided by 5000, ये numerator है, ठीक है, divided by पहला probability of A जो है, which is let's say basketball, ठीक है, 3750 divided by 5000 into दूसरा था 3000 divided by 5000, ये निकालेगा. So 0.8. So you see that there is a negative correlation between the two. ठीक है ना? So less than 1, not equal to 1. So lift can be used to quantify correlation or identify some relationship between the two. ठीक है? Now let me mention a few other measures and then discuss another issue. Okay, let's say we have these two events, and these two events can be item sets in general. ठीक है? So let's say मैं इसकी contingency table बनाता हूँ, जैसे वो slides में भी बनी हुई थी. This is 2 by 2 tables are called a contingency table. ठीक है? So we have A and we have, for example, not A ऊपर, और इधर है मेरे पास B और फिर not B. ठीक है? So let's say ये जो सेल की वैल्यूज हैं, ये पहली A है, दूसरी B है, नीचे आपके पास C है और फिर D है. ठीक है? Right? So of course A plus B plus C plus D is equal to N, which is total number of transactions. ठीक है? Right? So given this, support क्या चीज है? AB की is equal to A divided by N, right? Support यही है ना? So this is one measure. Confidence क्या है? Confidence of A implies B is equal to ऊपर support of AB है, which is A divided by N. कहाँ से आ गया? A ठीक है, डिवाइडेड बाय, तो नीचे आपके पास सपोर्ट में लेफ्ट हैंड साइड होता है. ठीक है, विच इज ए. ठीक है, तो ए का काउंट किस तरह निकल रहा है? So, ए की सपोर्ट क्या है? ए प्लस बी डिवाइडेड बाय एन. ठीक है ना? ठीक है ना? कॉन्फिडेंस ये है आपका, राइट? So now let's talk about this rule. So in addition to confidence, there are many other measures for such rules. So one is called the Jaccard coefficient. So Jaccard coefficient for this same rule is basically A divided by A plus B plus C. ठीक है? So by the way, ये इसको मैं सिंप्लीफाई भी कर सकता हूँ. ये ऊपर जो लिखा था मैंने, ये A divided by A plus B है, right? N कट हो जाता है. ठीक है ना? Is that fine? So Jaccard coefficient में D नहीं आ रहा. D क्या चीज है? D वो ट्रांजैक्शंस हैं जिनमें A भी नहीं आता और B भी नहीं आता. So these are transactions in the database that do not contain A or B and B, meaning that these are null transactions, transactions that do not contain these two item sets of interest, null transactions. Okay? So that's one measure, and we will talk about why this is better, but let me mention a couple of other measures. So another one is called the Sorensen dice. So this is given as 2A divided by 2A plus B plus C. वो इसको मैं इस तरह भी लिख सकता हूँ, A divided by A plus B plus A plus C divided by 2. ठीक है ना? So we'll talk about this next. And the third measure I'm going to write is called the cosine cosine similarity. So this is defined as A divided by, square root A plus B, A plus C. ठीक है? So now look at these measures closely. कोई आपको इसमें ट्रेंड नजर आ रहा है? एक तो ये देखें कि जितने भी मैंने लिखे हैं जैकेट कोफिशिएंट से आगे और कॉन्फिडेंस में जो ऑब्वियसली बी, उसमें डी नहीं आता, ठीक है ना? सपोर्ट में डी आता है, कॉन्फिडेंस में भी डी नहीं आता, जैकेट में भी नहीं आता, सोरेनसन डाइस में भी नहीं आता, और उसमें भी नहीं आता कोसाइन सिमिलैरिटी में, ठीक है ना? So null transactions have been removed, and these are thus called null invariant measures. So these are all null invariant measures. So why are such measures actually important? So that's the point here. So actually, one thing is that there are two things actually. एक तो ये है कि we need to be able to compare relationship between two events irrespective of the total data size. ठीक है? जो n है, n should not be a factor in our analysis. So they might be, for example, आप बात करते हैं जलालसन या फेज 5 का है, उसमें पर डे लेट्स से 10,000 ट्रांजैक्शंस होती हैं, पर कारफोर जो है लेट्स से इधर फोर्ट्रेस का, वहाँ पर डे 50,000 होती हैं. You still need to be want to be able to compare the relationship irrespective of n, which is the total number of transactions. So n should not play a role, and n always comes in when you have null transactions. So D should not be part of the formula. And if you do this, since that is not distorting your measure, you are better able to track the correlation. Of course, confidence is not correlation, but still, in general, you are better able to track the correlation. Those correlations not affected by the null transactions. ठीक है? ठीक है? ओके, एक तो ये चीज होगी. दूसरा, इसमें मैंने पूछा था ट्रेंड कोई है. सो जैकेट कोफिशिएंट में ऊपर ए था, नीचे क्या था? ए प्लस बी प्लस सी. ठीक है? इफ यू लुक एट द सोरेनसन डाइस, उसके ऊपर भी ए था, नीचे जो था, इफ आई वांट टू राइट इट अगेन, वो ये था ए प्लस बी प्लस ए प्लस सी डिवाइड बाय 2. सो ऊपर ए ही है जो दोनों इवेंट्स आ रहे हैं, नीचे एवरेज ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल इवेंट्स. ठीक है ना? ए प्लस बी इज टोटल फॉर ए, event A, and A plus C is the total for event B, and you divide it by 2. ठीक है? And now you move on to the cosine. Cosine में ऊपर A है, नीचे SQRT है, and the product of A plus B and A plus C, which is the two events again, but now the square root of the product. ठीक है? तो square root of the product का मतलब ये है कि in other words geometric mean नीचे ले रहे हैं. सोरेनसन डाइस में अरिथमेटिक मीन है, ऑफ कोर्स जैकेट में सी भी डाला हुआ है, देयर इज नो मीन देयर. ठीक है? सो व्हाट इज द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन अरिथमेटिक मीन एंड ज्योमेट्रिक मीन? किसी को पता? एक्चुअली ये आपको प्री प्रोसेसिंग में या डेटा एनालिसिस में भी हमने बुक में तो दिया हुआ था. आई डोंट रिमेंबर इफ आई डिस्कस दिस इन क्लास. सो ज्योमेट्रिक मीन 2 नंबर का क्या रिलेशन होता है एज कंपेयर टू इस अरिथमेटिक मीन? So generally geometric mean of two numbers would always in general be less than or equal to the arithmetic mean of those two numbers. So in other words, जो cosine similarity है is likely to be greater than or equal to the Sorensen-Dice similarity. ठीक है? So you need to be aware. एक तो ये important है, especially for item set mining. Presence is important. Absence is not important at all, and especially is not important for correlation or relationship analysis. So इसलिए we need to have a measure which does not include D, which is the null transactions. So we need a measure that is null invariant. ठीक है? And then of course we discuss some of them: confidence, Jaccard coefficient, Sorensen-Dice, and similarity, cosine similarity. So in practice, mostly if you want to quantify relationship, तो Jaccard coefficient हम use करेंगे. Sorensen-Dice is less known, but we move straight to cosine similarity. But Sorensen-Dice भी use सकती है. ठीक है? Okay. Now, any questions? आज लगता है क्लास सोई हुई है. Let me see. ठीक है. So are there any questions? So by the way, if you look at the cosine similarity, I think I don't need to go there. That's fine. ठीक है. So okay, let me just mention it. So cosine जो similarity है, you can also write this as support of A and B divided by SQRT, ठीक है, of support of A into support of B, ठीक है ना? तो you can also write it as this. Although वहाँ मैंने ABCD लिखा तो इस तरह भी लिख सकते हैं. तो इसमें आप देखें सपोर्ट किस तरह निकालते हैं. सपोर्ट ऑफ AB क्या है? A डिवाइड बाय N है, ठीक है. तो नीचे डिनोमिनेटर में आते हैं आप SQRT, ठीक है. तो you have A plus B divided by N into A plus C divided by N. So you notice that square N था तो square root N square था, तो नीचे भी एक N रह जाएगा, ऊपर एक N था, दोनों कट हो गए, तो इसका मतलब N का इम्पैक्ट नहीं आ रहा. ठीक है. So N का इम्पैक्ट इस इक्वेशन में नहीं है, so that's why this is null invariant. ठीक है. So now you have a bunch of measures by which you can try to understand the interestingness of various patterns, and each measure has some properties that you should be able to interpret and understand in the correct way. ठीक है. One other thing, as I said before, जो good measure की property है कि these measures should be able to be pushed into the algorithm so that कि हम algorithm को optimize कर सकें. जैसे support की हमने बात की, वो first scan से ही हम support डाल के सिर्फ वही पैटर्न निकाल रहे हैं जो सपोर्ट को सेटिस्फाई कर रहे हैं. So those measures are called pushable into the algorithm. So, but unfortunately, only few of these or not many algorithms are pushable. So, which is actually an open challenge to design algorithms that can effectively utilize, for example, chi-square to find only those patterns that have strong chi-square values in an optimal way, in an efficient way. Okay? So chi-square, for example, is not very pushable. Support, of course, is pushable. Okay? So now finally, let me mention two measures that are generally recommended also quick understanding of patterns. So unme jo do measures hain, both of them of course are null invariant. So those are called the Kulzinski measure कहते हैं या coefficient कहते हैं शायद coefficient, and the other is the imbalance ratio. ठीक है? So both of them are relatively easy. So Kulzinski, for a rule like A implies B, is basically the average of the support. I should say rule. Of the pattern AB, ठीक है? ठीक है? Is basically the average of 0.5 into confidence of A implies B plus confidence of B implies A. So this is a fairly practically usable measure to quantify the importance of a pattern. So both directions की implications का average ले लिया, simple average, ठीक है? But इससे of course आपको implication की direction नहीं पता चलती कि which one is stronger. तो उसके लिए वो imbalance ratio use करते हैं. So imbalance ratio, that is defined as imbalance ratio, of course, from A to B. That is defined as support of A minus support of B divided by support of A plus support of B minus support of both A and B. Okay? So as you notice in the numerator, you have support of A minus support of B. So if support of A is larger, then it means that implication is towards the left side. If the support of B is larger, then implication is towards the right side. And of course, denominator में हमने normalize किया हुआ है. ठीक है? So any questions?
No, sir.
अच्छा, ठीक है. So let's move on to a few other ideas, and then I think we'll have just one or two more lectures and we'll be able to complete frequent pattern mining. Sure. So this was about interestingness measures in general previously, and then interestingness measures for frequent pattern mining and association rule mining. We discussed some of the issues underlining those measures. So now let's look at some more general ways in which you can find frequent patterns or interesting patterns. So far we have talked about transactional. We have also talked about sequential. DBs. So we are trying to find interesting patterns or frequent patterns from transactional databases and from sequential databases. So we have done that. But you can actually also find frequent patterns from standard relational DBs. ठीक है? So relational DBs ये relational वो database वाला relational है. You can think of standard column and rows type of data sets, meaning that हर एक column में कोई feature है, हर एक row में कोई observation का उस feature की value है. ठीक है? So tabular representation of data. So you can think of, for example, let's say जो हम student database की पहले बात कर रहे थे, that's a tabular representation थी. तो उसमें let's say आपके पास जो features थे तो फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स से मैं जेंडर लेता हूँ एक फीचर, तो एक फीचर ले लेता हूँ स्कूल लेट्स से ले लेता हूँ, और फिर लेट्स से लेता हूँ कोर्स, और लेट्स से लेता हूँ ग्रेड. लेट्स से ये आपके पास एक रिलेशनल टेबुलर डेटा सेट है एंड वी हैव डेटा फॉर टन्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स. ठीक है. अब इसमें भी आप फ्रीक्वेंट पैटर्न माइनिंग कर सकते हैं, बट हियर यू आर नॉट focusing on one dimension. You're focusing on now, let's say, 4 dimensions, 4 features. So dimensions and features are sometimes used interchangeably. So previously, हम जब transactional databases की बात कर रहे थे, we were focusing on one dimension. For example, जो market basket analysis था, the dimension was buy. What has someone bought? ठीक है ना? So that was the only dimension. And we were considering combinations of that to find frequent patterns. But here we have dimensions, gender, for example, we have course, we have school, we have grade. ठीक है ना? So in this sense, we have what is known as multi-dimensional pattern mining. ठीक है? So for example, क्या हो सकता है? Let's say मैं gender को G देता हूँ, फिर मेरे पास है school S हो गया, course C हो गया, और grade भी G हो गया, grade को मैं R दे देता हूँ. ठीक है? So उसमें एक रो क्या हो सकती है? For example, gender is equal to, let's say, male, course, school is equal to, let's say, science and engineering. ठीक है? SSE. ठीक है? Course, let's say, is equal to whatever 432. ठीक है? And then let's say आपके पास है grade था, R क्या देते हैं, is equal to A. तो ये एक रो था उसका. And of course, there will be multiple rows like this. ठीक है? And now our goal is to find combinations of this that occur frequently in this data set. So what are these combinations? These are combinations of attribute value pairs. और जैसे मैंने ऊपर कहा मल्टी डायमेंशनल पैटर्न है. ठीक है? So for example, let's say मुझे एक पैटर्न मिलता है G is equal to M and let's say school is equal to SSE and grade is equal to, let's say, I don't know. So let's say F. ठीक है? So let's say if this pattern occurs frequently, so then you can kind of, it's a pattern, it's an interesting observation that males in the SSE get a lot of Fs. ठीक है ना? As compared to, let's say, females, as compared to, let's say, courses in other schools. ठीक है? And of course, इसका जो भी count होगा, let's say इसका count 30 है, and 30 is 30 rows that contain this pattern out of जितने भी आपके पास total थे let's say 1000 the. So this is actually the support. So this is actually the support of this pattern. And if this support is greater than some minimum threshold, then we should be able to find this through a frequent pattern mining algorithm. ठीक है? So अब इसको हम किस तरह हैंडल करेंगे? Any ideas? So इसमें भी actually वही सारे algorithms लग सकते हैं. So you can apply a priori, you can apply FP growth with slight modifications, either in the representation of the data or in the algorithm. ठीक है? So for example, in the representation, for example, in the algorithm, so G is equal to M is one item and G is equal to F is another item in, let's say, the vocabulary. ठीक है ना? दोनों different items है ना? But can you have both of them in one pattern? So can you have a pattern like this? G is equal to M and G is equal to F. So you can't have this pattern because because this is a relational database. Each observation can have only one value. So you need to keep this in track of this while you are generating candidates and while you are growing your patterns from one size to another size. So by the way, ये जो set बनता है, let's say G is equal to M and let's say school is equal to SSE, this set, जैसे और जगहों पे भी वो sets के बड़े नाम fancy रखे हैं, this is called a predicate set. Because आपके पास एक attribute है या predicate समझ लें और उसकी एक value है. So इसी तरह this specifically this is called a two predicate set because it has two predicates in it, two dimensions in it, two different features in it. ठीक है? So again आपका algorithm उसी तरह चलेगा. You start with one predicate set, move on to two predicate set, until you reach your k predicate set. ठीक है? So a priori algorithm इसी तरह ही grow होगा. But जैसे मैंने कहा growth में आपने जब आपके पास पहले एक predicate G is equal to M कोई आ गया उसमें G is equal to F नहीं डाल सकते. Obviously you know that you won't find any pattern with both genders listed. ठीक है? And of course जब एक level तक पहुंच जाएंगे और वो level K would definitely be less than or equal to the number of attributes. ठीक है ना? आपके attributes मेरे जो ऊपर example दी इसमें से 4 थे तो ये K can only grow up to 4. But of course for a large data set, so you might stop at a smaller number of K depending on the support that you have provided. ठीक है? Okay, I think I will probably stop here. तो if few other ideas हैं वो मेरे ख्याल से next class में शायद खत्म हो जाएंगे. So I hope you understand what is a multi-dimensional item set mining, and you can always extend a priori to work with multi-dimensional. So by the way, एक तो ये मैंने कहा था ना algorithm में modify कर सकते हैं. The other thing is you can do different coding. जैसे मैंने कहा था G is equal to M basically एक attribute है और G is equal to F different attribute है. You can use 0, 1 of K encoding and then apply your standard algorithms for frequent item set mining. Meaning, in other words, आपके पास एक attribute होगा G is equal to M और एक attribute होगा G is equal to F. हर एक रो में। इसी तरह फॉर एग्जांपल S इज इक्वल टू SSE एक होगा और S इज इक्वल टू जो भी है दूसरा HSS दूसरा होगा। तो इन एनी रो यू विल ओनली हैव वन वन एंड अदर जीरो। ठीक है, एक सेट में सिर्फ एक वन होगा, दूसरा जीरो होगा। ठीक है, सो नाउ यू हैव यू आर कंस्ट्रेनिंग द एट्रीब्यूट टू हैव ओनली वन वैल्यू इन ए पर्टिकुलर रो। वो इस तरह फिर आपका जो स्टैंडर्ड ए प्रायोरी का एल्गोरिथम है विच टेक्स प्रेजेंस ओनली, वो अप्लाई हो सकता है, बिकॉज वो दूसरा एब्सेंट ही होगा हमेशा। ठीक है, okay, are there any questions? So I hope you have understood the concepts as well. If you don't have any questions, ठीक है, तो we would have a quiz inshallah on Monday so that you have 5 quizzes before the mid. And जब आपके 9 quizzes हो जाएंगे, which I think we are on track to have 9 quizzes, I'll drop 2. If we have just 8 quizzes, I'll just drop 1. But 9 हो जाएंगे तो मैं 2 drop कर दूंगा. So inshallah फिर Monday को quiz करते हैं and we'll drop hopefully drop 2 by the end of the semester. And as I mentioned earlier, your exam is on March 13. So और उसका जो content है would be till the 15th lecture, which is the week after next week, the Monday after next Monday. ठीक है? So उस वक्त तक जो भी content cover हो जाएगा, it will be tested in the mid exam. ठीक है? So any other question? Challenge, if there are no questions, then we can probably end the session. So we'll meet again on Monday, inshallah, and continue where we stopped off. I think that would be probably the last lecture on item set mining, and then we'll move on to cluster analysis after that.